Alright everyone, welcome to part 2 of my ranking of the entire MCU, going phase by phase in the build up to Doomsday. Today, I'll be ranking phase 2, as I ranked phase 1 in my last part. If you haven't already seen my phase 1 ranking, I recommend you give that a watch before watching this one, just so you've got my thoughts and opinions on all the phase 1 MCU movies. So, pause this one and go watch the first part. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back. If I had to sum up phase 2 of the MCU, it would be an overall large improvement over phase 1. I think the highs of phase 1 might be better, but I do think on average phase 2 is a much better, more consistent phase than phase 1. I would say phase 2 is probably a top 2 phase for me in the MCU, and I had a lot of fun watching it. However, there are definitely some really bad things about it. And to the point where some things are even worse than the low points of phase 1 in my opinion. But everything except for 2 movies in this phase is really solid in my opinion, and more than enough to make it a top 3 MCU phase. So let's not waste much time and dive into my ranking of every movie in phase 2 of the MCU. Hey everyone, Editor Me here, and I just want to say to everyone that watched my last video, thank you so much for the support of my last video. It really means a lot to me, and I appreciate it very much. But I do want to let you know that only 10% of you guys were subscribed. So, if you could do me a massive favour and do that for me right now, and hit the bell so you're notified every single time I upload a video, it would really mean the world to me. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Boring!
Oh my god. Thor the Dark World is so boring. If you want to know, I would much rather watch a movie that pisses me off and has me engaged through it than be bored out of my mind to no end while watching a movie. Because I can't stand it when a movie is just so boring. The most entertaining part about it is watching the progress bar go by. Like, I don't think I've ever checked the progress bar more than when I was watching this movie. Let's start talking about the worst thing about it. And there were a few things, but the worst thing about this movie, easily, is that the side characters are awful. Like, oh my god, in the first movie, they were bad, but not that bad. But in this one, they are insufferable at points. Darcy is fucking awful, and I hate her with a passion. I don't care for her intern or whatever he is. She is so annoying, and the other side characters are not interesting, but harmless. Darcy is just so annoying. And another awful thing about this is the villain, Malekith, is just not interesting whatsoever, and it's just emotionless. I forgot he was even in the movie. That's how boring he is. Also, his motivation is just so basic and generic for a villain. Wow, he wants to take over the galaxy or the 9 realms or whatever the fuck, I don't remember. But he's just awful. It's crazy that he's only the second worst villain in phase 2, which we'll talk about very soon. I can name a number of awful things about this movie, but I'll say just one more. This whole movie is so grey and dull and depressing looking. Asgard is this magical god realm, but it lacks so much energy, and I think it's so ugly to look at. I touched upon this in my last video, but Asgard in general is so boring every time we are there. I don't care for these side characters who are just so unmemorable, and the movie makes us think we should care for them, but I just don't in the slightest. So overall, this movie is one of the most boring snooze fest movies I've ever seen. The only redeemable thing about it is obviously Loki. If you've seen my first video, you would know I really do love Loki, and I do think he's great in this, but even he's not enough to save this film from just being anything but boring and the worst movie in phase 2. I would say it's not close, but there is one more that is really bad as well.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Now, Coming in at number 5 is Iron Man 3. Now, remember when I said I would rather be really angry at a movie than be bored out of my mind to no end? Well, this is the latter. I think in the first half, with Tony and his panic attacks, and the Mandarin, it's all really cool, and I actually really like it. But the moment where the Mandarin twist gets revealed, this movie falls off a cliff and becomes one of the most infuriating films I've ever seen. Now, this movie for the most part is actually pretty enjoyable, but there are just 2 or 3 things in this that make me so mad and infuriated that it makes the experience of watching it that much worse. Let's start with the good. I think Tony's panic attacks at the start are really strong, showing the impact that New York had on him, and every time New York is mentioned he freaks out, and I actually do really like it. Also, my personal favourite thing about it is Tony's relationship with the little kid. I do enjoy watching the interaction and seeing them help each other out. And they also have some pretty funny moments together. And overall, the first half of the movie is reasonably enjoyable. I think the start of the movie starts off like a 7 out of 10, a really enjoyable time. But the second half, well, oh my fucking god. Both of the so-called villains in this are fucking awful. Killian is one of my least favourite MCU villains, and he's not as boring and characterless as Malekith, but he definitely pisses me off more than him. Because you have such a good looking villain in the Mandarin, but you just throw that away and swap him for some guy who's upset that Tony egoed him like 10 years ago. There are actually a lot of these types of villains in the MCU that are just haters of Iron Man, including 2 of Spider-Man's villains and Whiplash, who isn't the best villain, and he was also the villain of the last Iron Man movie. It's the same character but worse. And here's the thing. The Mandarin looks so interesting, and you could have made him an epic villain, but they just showed him as an actor. And the moment that was revealed, I was so mad at the movie for that. You see, I think the Mandarin had so much potential for it to be a really cool and intimidating villain. The videos he was sending out to the public of him like committing mass terrorism is so cool, and it could have been such a cool villain, and very similar to the first Iron Man. But they swap him out for the same old Iron Man hater, person who got denied by Tony and now he just wants revenge. It's so boring, and they could have made it so much better, and that's why the movie just pisses me off as much as it does. Now, for my number 1 least favourite part about this movie is that fucking ending where Pepper gets superpowers out of nowhere and kills Killian right after a really epic moment where Tony blows up one of his suits to kill him. This ending is just, in my words, pulled out of the movie's ass and trying to be cool, but it comes off as corny as fuck. I was sitting in my chair in awe of how cringe and stupid of a way to kill a villain that was, especially after the scene right before it, which was awesome as fuck. When the Mark 42 comes out of nowhere and flies in and breaks everywhere, and he puts it on Killian and he says, "Jarvis, go ahead and blow Mark 42. That was awesome and hype, and I thought it was the ending. Then he's alive now, and then Pepper kills him. It's so stupid, and I fucking hate it. It's so bad. I hate it. I hate it. I fucking hate it! So, this movie definitely pisses me off. More than Thor the Dark World. But Thor the Dark World is a snooze fest all the way through it. And Iron Man 3 does have a really strong first half, but really falls off at the end in the second act. It's a meh movie with an awful villain and climax, but it's definitely not boring or uninteresting like Thor Dark World. It's just... it just narrowly dodges last place. Alright, now that's all the bad ones out the way. So now, we're going to get into some movies that I actually really enjoy and had a good time with.
Hey! That's pretty good.
Ant-Man is good. Alright, that sums up.
I was meant to be new.
Alright, for real though. Ant-Man is actually surprisingly a really fun time. I watched it a few years ago and thought it was alright, but I didn't remember how good it was. It's yet another great origin story, and I found myself really invested in the characters and the story. Although simple, I really do like the story. It's basically just a heist movie, where Scott has to don the Ant-Man suit to steal another Ant-Man suit from an evil company who's trying to make it. Who's trying to remake it, basically. I found myself really engaged all the way through it. It did lose me a little bit at the end of the CGI battle and stuff, but as far as CGI battles go, it's pretty good. Let's start with some positives. I think Scott is a relatively interesting protagonist, and I find myself caring for him and his daughter, and I really do care for them. I want them to make out this alive. I also think the CGI in this is actually really good for the MCU, and everything with Scott training and him fighting Falcon and all the action is just really fun. I had a blast watching all the action in it. It's also really funny too. I like Scott's group of friends. I think they're all funny and serve their purpose. And Scott is also really funny. However, it's not perfect. I do think the villain is not great. Damn, that's 3 really bad villains in a row. Huh. He's not as bad as like Malekith or fucking Killian, but he's not great either. Anyway, yeah, the Yellow Jacket's just not the best villain. I think his motivation's actually fair enough, but I just don't find it that interesting. The whole character is just, I want to become really rich, and I'm sad that Hank Pym keeps gatekeeping this revolutionary technology, so he wants to sell the suits and make money from them. Which, it's not even like a crazy motivation, but it's not very interesting either. And he also just kills people for no real reason, so that's why he's getting a bad, but yeah, it's just not that great, but he's passable, I guess. So yeah, overall, Ant-Man is really fun and enjoyable to watch. I think it's really underrated. It's got a great plot, fun characters, and it's a really nice and fun watch, and a solid superhero origin. Yeah man, I just don't really have much to say about this one. It's Ant-Man. It's really fun characters, fun action. You should watch it if you haven't already.
I was meant to be new. I was meant to be beautiful.
Avengers Age of Ultron is probably the worst Avengers movie, but it's still epic nonetheless. I think it's just awesome throughout, and there are also many awesome moments in it that are just so fun to watch. I mean, it's impossible to watch this and not find it entertaining. You just can't. I mean, it's an Avengers movie. It's really hard to make it bad, and also really hard to not find it awesome while watching it. So, I have a few things to say about this one, but let's start my favourite thing about it.
Scream and your entire staff dies.
Ultron is so cool and awesome, man. His monologues are so cold, and he has so much aura in this film. He is one of the best MCU villains for me, partly because of his aura, but other than that, the concept of an AI thinking the best way to save the planet is getting rid of humanity due to all the war and violence and people killing each other is such a cool idea for a villain. And I mean, is he wrong? I mean, if his first impression of humanity was the internet, all it would take is a scroll through Twitter and a few Reddit threads, and it would make sense why he would try to kill the whole planet. Wow, no way, the first good villain of the list. Other than Ultron, I think the movie just looks great overall. The Hulkbuster fight and the opening fight, and all the illusions of Wanda, all look amazing. Also, this is the last time we get to see a real Hulk before they made him more human. It's just a really entertaining movie. There's no major negatives with it, it's just a pretty solid movie and not much else. There's some story problems here and there, and there definitely are problems, but nothing too major. It's also pretty integral and important to the MCU, as it introduces Wanda, who's a really important character later on in the MCU, and becomes one of the main characters. Oh, and Quicksilver's there too. He doesn't do much. So yeah, overall, this movie is pretty good, and it has some epic moments. It's extremely entertaining and a fun watch, but objectively it's not the best and not as good as the two I have above it, but it still makes for a fun, engaging, and overall important watch, with one of my favourite villains in the MCU. Ultron is not as good as Loki, well, no one's good as Loki, but he's still great nonetheless. Just like this movie, great. I give it a nice, clean 8 out of 10. Not the best, but it's still pretty great.
Star-Lord. Who?
Alright people, it's Guardians time. Guardians of the Galaxy is coming in at number 2, and is probably the top 3 funniest MCU movies for me. I've seen a lot of people put this movie in their top 3 MCU, and I understand why. It's got some really compelling characters, surprisingly good emotional beats, and a very tight, solid story to go along with it. It's very similar to Iron Man in a way, as it's again Kevin Feige doing what he does best, taking the Guardians of the Galaxy, who were C-list, D-list at best at the time, and made a great movie. This movie introduced many people, myself included, to the Guardians for the first time, and we all loved them. This one again is really fun, and a genuinely fantastic movie. It does have a mid-villain, but that's the only bad thing I would say. A movie doesn't have to have a great villain to be good. So let's start to talk about the comedy, because this movie is a comedic riot and so funny. Rocket and Groot are a hilarious duo and have so many funny moments together.
What a Class A freebird.
Like the fountain scene in the prison when he triggers the alarm. It's not like Thor Love and Thunder where there's a penis joke every 30 seconds. When this movie wants you to take it seriously, it makes you take it seriously. When Groot says,
We are Groot.
it's enough to make a grown man cry. I also love Quill in this. I think he's hilarious and well written. I really enjoy every time he's on screen. Quill is a very enjoyable protagonist, and I really like him, and he and Gamora are a great couple too. Oh, and Drax is here too, and he is so freaking hilarious. His one-liners are some of the funniest moments of the whole MCU.
Cease your yammering and relieve us from this artsy confinement.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with the walking thesaurus on that one.
Do not ever call me a thesaurus.
It's just a metaphor, dude.
Yeah, man. This movie's just awesome, and it clears all of Phase 1, with the sole exception of the Avengers, of course. It's funny, heartfelt, engaging, fun, and a subpar villain, but we can look past that and look at the amazing characters and nice story. But there's one that is just barely better than it, and I think you guys already know what that might be.
Spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
Really?
And my pick for the number 1 best movie in Phase 2 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I mean, what did you expect? This movie, although not my favourite in the MCU, I think you can make the argument this is the best movie in the MCU, even though it's not my absolute favourite. This movie is just amazing through and through. Everything from Cap being a fugitive to the tension between him and Bucky is just phenomenal. There's a lot of amazing stuff to talk about, but let's start with the best part about it, being the Winter Soldier himself. Remember when I said Ultron had aura? Well, the Winter Soldier has just as, if not more than him. I mean, just look at this. This man is oozing aura, but aura is not the only important thing you need. You do need to take into account the characters themselves and their background. And Bucky has probably the most interesting origin for a villain. So basically, Bucky survived the fall of the train, and Hydra found him and brainwashed him, and I love it so much. It's so cool to see Cap seeing Bucky for the first time when he says,
Who the hell is Bucky?
It hits hard. Oh my god, at the end, when Cap says,
And finish it. Because I'm with you to the end of the line.
oh my god, it's just so good, man. Also in this film, you get the massive reveal that S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra and have been operating under their noses the whole time, and have been taking out government officials the whole time. It's such an interesting concept, and when Zola gives that monologue about what's been happening, it's an amazing scene. I was sitting in my chair just like shocked and taking it all in. I mean, come on, this movie is just so good. Cap is even better in this than he is in the first, and Black Widow, I think she's the best in this as she's ever been, in my opinion. And Nick Fury is amazing per usual, and I mean, do you see why this movie is the best MCU movie? Like, oh my god. Alright, so, overall, I believe that this is the best movie, objectively, in the whole MCU. But, it's just not my personal favourite. As in my opinion, it's not even in my top 5 in terms of personal favourites, but when it comes to just the quality of film, I think that nonetheless Captain America the Winter Soldier is the best written and tightest film in the MCU, and the best film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Alright, so overall, my final ranking of Phase 2 of the MCU is number 6, Thor the Dark World. Number 5, Iron Man 3. Number 4, Ant-Man. Number 3, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. And finally, number 1, the best movie in the MCU, Captain America the Winter Soldier. That's it. That's my final ranking. And overall, my thoughts on Phase 2 is, I would say it's probably one of the more consistently solid phases, as 4 out of 6 of them I really enjoyed, and just 2 of the movies in this phase were really bad, and drag it down just a bit. I would say I prefer it over Phase 1, because Phase 1 only has 2 movies I would say is an 8 out of 10 or higher, and I think Phase 1 is has got the best movie out of the 2 of them, that being the Avengers. Even though I think the Winter Soldier is objectively better and better written, I think the Avengers has got the higher highs, and I prefer it just a little bit more. So yeah, there you go. That is my part 2 of the series where I go through the MCU phase by phase, ranking them all. And please, if you've made it to the end of this video, please consider subscribing, as you clearly enjoyed it, and if you made it here. It would really mean the world to me if you did, and also like and comment down below what you thought of the ranking. I mean it. Do it now.
Everybody ask me how I know. I smiled at them and said she told me so. Everybody ask me how I know. I smiled at them and said she told me so. Everybody